Hey, what's up, everybody? It's rock comedian and huge Kiss fan Don Jamieson, and you're listening to the #1 ranked Kiss podcast, the Shout It Out Loud cast. Shout It Out Loud cast. Shout it out loud. With Tom and Zeus.
And reports tonight on how destruction is impacting the campus community.
Names of O'Hara Hall, Skid Row, T-Zone, Banff.
Badass motherfuckers.
Somph, sit on my face.
Drinking like fucking ass pre-gaming, as we called it. What is this dorm damage bill on our tuition statement?
Dorm damage?
Well, we only broke like 3 chairs and 4 desks this month.
Is that a positive thing? Bam! That's right. We're back with another episode of Dorm Damage, the show where anything and everything is on the table and the table gets smashed. This is episode 127, and we have some very special guests this week, Zeus.
We have the Nelson twins. Matthew and Gunnar are going to join us, and they're coming up right now.
Our guests this week come from a family tree of legends, from their father Ricky to their grandparents Ozzie and Harriet. They took MTV by storm in 1990 with their smash hits Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection and After the Rain, and now they just released a book telling all of their amazing stories. The book is called What Happened to Your Hair? How We Played Loud, Loved Proud, and Never Backed Down Together. Let's welcome to the show the great Matthew and Gunnar Nelson. Guys, welcome
nice
to the show.
Good to know you. Good to know you. Yeah, very good. Very good. What's happening, fellas? Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody.
We're not
This
dead.
is a little surreal for us.
Yeah, very much
we
so.
Go back. I am. So while I have this, and I want to show you guys something.
Okay.
So this is from my college days.
Yep.
Nice.
And I know it's from my college days because back then everybody was stealing people's CDs.
Yep.
So you had a unique marking system to know that's my CD. So
Right
I've
on.
had this since 1990.
Now, here's the question. Did you admit to any of your guy friends that you actually owned that record back in the day?
Yes, he stole it from me.
Not after 1991.
Okay, there you go.
No, that's not true. This came with me to college, and we were freshmen in 91 September. So this was there for a few years, and then all of a sudden, some Pearl Jam and Nirvana came in, and some stuff got moved down a little. But it didn't leave. I kept it.
Yep.
Hey, look, we hope that we were a nice, healthy part of your college dorm shenanigans.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for
You
sure.
were.
Yeah,
Well,
yep.
But that's a perfect segue, because let's talk about that for a little bit. So you guys were huge in 1990. I mean, multi-platinum, all over MTV. You guys looked beautiful. You still do. God bless.
Well, we
Thanks.
used to look like hot Swedish chicks.
Yeah,
Now just-
okay, all right.
Now we
But
just
it-
look
but it's-
Swedish.
But it's
Hey, look,
funny 'cause-
including the Kiss guys, no one, and I mean no one, wore assless chaps better than Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, period.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
really?
Period.
Okay. We don't
Yeah.
need proof, but we'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Okay. But you guys were so huge, and it was that sweet spot of hair metal had been kind of dying down, and grunge was just coming on the scene. Could you guys feel that the change in the music when you guys were big in 1990? Because
Not initially. Honestly, that happened when we were halfway through our first headlining tour.
Okay.
You know, because when we started out on that little journey, it was interesting because Gunnar and I really found ourselves as kind of men without a country. You know,
Yeah.
we had pop success, so we had like #1 records on the Billboard Hot 100. We were kind of like the token rock band.
Right.
And we didn't have to go straight to a ballad to do it, which was good for us. But when that happened, we kind of became like the redheaded stepchildren of the rock world, even though a lot of those guys, we knew them all. We worked with them, you know, and I know this is kind of a Kiss-centric kind of thing, too, because we have some connections, which is kind of fun with that whole thing, which we'll talk about. But no, we did not realize that was the case. We did, I think, 13 months straight, 6 shows a week. Wow. And every arena looks the same. You know, it's like Groundhog Day. You know how it is, guys. You go into an arena anywhere in the country, they all look the same. They feel the same. And frankly, the two of us at the age we were only 22 at the time. We employed 45 people full time.
Unbelievable.
It was out with the buses and the trucks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, there's no tapes or anything like that. That was us singing all of that stuff.
It was a high energy rock concert for 3 hours a night, every night in chest voice doing that. And as our good friend Mark Slaughter told us before we went out on the tour, fellas, there's a big difference between working your way up in clubs in LA like you have, like we were 12 years old, we started doing that, and doing like 1 or 2 shows maybe a weekend and doing it 6 nights a week every night.
Right.
And it was
a bit different pressure.
Kind of a wake-up call, So basically the two of us, to get to your question, we were so concentrated on bringing that show every night at the highest of levels and not throwing our voices out and doing all that stuff, not disappointing the fans. We had no idea what was going on in the industry at the time, but
we actually wrote about it in the book a lot, about that shift that you're talking about. It was like the single biggest paradigm shift in popular music history, and look, looking back on it now, a lot of that stuff had to die because it wasn't great.
Yep.
But there was a lot of really great stuff. It's just that, our opinion is that there are a lot of people that got together, but more importantly, very few at the very top of this, and just kind of decided, like they did with the death of disco, hey, this has gotten bloated and expensive, and we need to do a reset, the Great Reset. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before or experienced anything like it. And basically, it was really weird because it couldn't have been organic, just because it almost seemed like overnight MTV, which of course was a juggernaut, the 800-pound gorilla, everybody, we lived by it. They just mothballed it a week ago. I can't believe it officially, but
unreal.
It was always on, right? And so basically what happened was everybody went, what did you say? One day everybody was living on a prayer.
And the next day they were smelling like Teen Spirit. You were talking about it gradually. Grunge didn't gradually come on at all. What happened was there were like the 6, and we write about this in the book as well, the 6 powerful people who ran the music business all got together, just like they did when disco died. And they said, hey, back then, Donna Summer's asking for millions of dollars a record. In those days, dollars, by the way. It's bloated. It's huge. But there's a new scene going on in England right now. It's called punk. And you give those guys a dime bag of heroin and a Happy Meal, they'll do anything you want. And lo and behold, overnight, it was punk. It was no more disco. It was punk. Same thing happened, with the whole confidence rock era. Matthew and I were kind of like the bookends. We were like, as Matt mentioned, bands without a country. It would be like, I'm not comparing or anything like that stylistically, but one of our heroes, like the guys in Boston, what were they? They weren't metal. They weren't pop.
Yep.
They were definitely rock, but I mean, fitting them into a category is kind of tough, Kiss is just a straight ahead rock band, but the greatest thing that those guys do is they were unique and knew how to market themselves from jump. They did something that was unique and special and different. And, with the brains behind that, with Gene and Paul, those guys put something together, and their whole thing was like how they started every show, every single show for their career. And people knew what they were getting with that. Our whole thing when we came out was love us or hate us, you're going to know who we are. We were debuting. We had not only no guarantee of having any kind of priority at the label,
which we didn't.
Which we write about that too. What people perceive us to be these trust fund kids who went into music just for fun, as a hobby. That wasn't the case at all. I mean, it was our way out of our gulag. We grew up with a really abusive alcoholic mother and a dad who was gone all the time. And, we were actually we were considered guilty until proven innocent right out of the box. So all of those kind of like ego moments that you would normally see where a band signed with their label and they're in Parade magazine or Billboard with big smiles like, hey, we're signing the contract. You're not going to find that on the Nelson twins. None of that stuff was done because we were sons of. So they wanted some culpable deniability in case it didn't work.
It would have been a high-profile failure. And the irony there is all the way you go full circle to the end of that run of our first album. Nirvana broke on our label, DGC, which was the offshoot of the David Geffen company.
That's right.
And,
yep.
Yeah, and by the way, there was a lot of that stuff I really liked. A lot of the stuff, because Gunnar and I actually had a lot of alternative and punk in our DNA and rockabilly and all kinds of different things that we did when we were playing clubs. But we understood it. It's just that the way that it happened, it was violent and sudden to us.
Look, the thing that was sus to us is like, okay, like I mentioned, Tuesday, everyone's living on a prayer. Wednesday, they're smelling like Teen Spirit. And the clothes, the flannel was already in the gap.
Oh, 100%.
It was already there, waiting to happen. MTV just said, overnight,
we're not playing any of this stuff.
If you're not from Seattle, we're not playing you, period. And that's what happened. So it really was, engineered. I understand why it was. There were some great singers that came out of there. Chris Cornell, for one, who I absolutely loved. But then again, as a songwriter, I like writing songs that make sense and story songs, even though I love the Cars and their beat poetry lyrics. Basically, they deliver that really well. There's still some singers from that era that sound like they're singing with marbles in their mouth, and I don't think that's cool. I just can't fucking understand them, and it bothers me. So, I don't know, man. Look, the two of us have always been rock and roll fans from the very beginning, and we grew up in Southern California at a different time than most people. Most of the heavy-duty rock bands come from a really specific blues background. You can hear the DNA in everything they do. 1-4-5 blues, lots of minor keys, all of that, and that's great. But Matt and I grew up during that whole Laurel Canyon sound thing that was happening at the time.
And then the power pop thing that happened.
But things where people were playing down at the Troubadour. So Matt and I grew up with our dad with an acoustic guitar in his hands, playing original songs for his Stone Canyon band, arguably one of the first country rock bands. And you had people like Linda Ronstadt and Jackson Browne and Bob Dylan showing up at the house all the time. So what we really gravitated towards was not the blues. We really kind of did that whole Southern California kind of like folk pop rock thing. That was our DNA, and it was authentic. And so when we started writing songs, definitely coming from more of a Beatles rather than a Stones sort of thing, Matt wrote this great lick on Love and Affection. It was the first time an electric 12-string went number one on the Hot 100 since Tambourine Man. And I think that's pretty cool. But we got a lot of hate for the visuals, but the mission was accomplished. Love us or hate us, we were Taylor Swift for a year. So that's awesome.
That was great. And I think,
100%.
Kind of looking at this as well, as far as marketing is concerned, Maynard from Tool wrote a book, and there's a picture of the two of us with Sir Gene and Maynard, and I think the quote was something like me at our album release party with with geniuses of marketing, and I think that's what it was all about. Gunnar and I, we kind of followed more in the Kiss and Prince thing with it's got to be special and different in our own fantasy world, because frankly, everybody misunderstands us out of the box. They assume. So we might as well just do something weird and cool and different. And you know what? It really worked. And I think it was, we did write some songs with Paul and Gene before our first album that didn't make it.
We actually wrote with Vinny, too.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Ooh.
We got to get to that.
Yeah,
we gotta get to that
we did.
Hey,
look, don't get all excited, man. It was one day. It was one afternoon, but it was interesting.
One day with Vinny is like 12 years with anybody else, probably.
Did he charge you $40,000 for a writing?
He was okay with us.
Yeah, he was actually he was okay with us, but we actually got it obviously with Bobby Rock in our band.
Yes,
and Mark Slaughter's still our best friend to this day.
The reason why we wrote the book was Dana Strum. Actually said to us one day, he said, guys, everybody misunderstands you guys. Everybody in the business who knows you and works with you, they get you. They totally understand. But the general public, you just said, they didn't do you a whole lot of favors with marketing you the way that they did to like teen magazines and stuff like that, which we understood. It was easy for them. He said, you got to tell them your story, because anybody that knows, and we thought, okay, well, then we're going to have to write it ourselves. No ghostwriters, none of that crap.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And creatively titled, What Happened to Your Hair?
It's fantastic.
I don't know what you're talking about. You still have great hair.
Look at the two of us. What happened to our hair?
Hey,
what are you talking
about? You guys are streamlined. You're built for speed. I like it.
Yeah, right.
I got to jump on a couple of things that you guys have said already.
Okay.
First of all, I am a huge fan of your dad's.
Thank you. Thank you. Us too. Absolutely.
Okay. So I was a fan of his when you guys came out. I had no idea that you were Ricky Nelson's kids until later. And
that's a great thing to play on, because what's funny is any kind of allegations of nepotism or being nepo babies or whatever. We sold millions of records to a bunch of kids who had no idea who Ricky Nelson was.
Yep. Exactly.
The only people that were impressed were the press guys, the much older press guys.
But they're all assholes anyway.
But we actually never kind of if you look at all the press from back in the day, we never talked about where we came from or who our dad was or our grandparents or anything like that, because each generation of our family has done something specific to their generation that was, I guess, relevant. Grandpa Ozzie had a really successful big band. back in the 20s and 30s and had number ones back in that day. Our dad started out doing his rockabilly that was incredible that other people wrote, and then reinvented himself as a country rocker with songs that he then wrote. And then the two of us come along looking like the Malibu Beach Barbie twins and, do our own
number
thing.
one too. So that's 3 number ones, 3 generations, which is amazing.
It doesn't suck.
Yeah, it doesn't suck. It doesn't suck.
But I got to get a couple of these comments in here. So first of all, when you talk about like not fitting in and your image from like, well, we're not really hair metal. We're not into the grunge yet. And you're kind of figuring out where you are and you have your own stuff. It does kind of remind me of your dad a little bit, because your dad, when he tried to come back later on and build up his music career, and he had a different style of music. And they're all looking at him like, dude, that's not 50s Ricky Nelson. We'll go back to, do the songs that we know you from. And he's
really
like, no, I want to do this.
You're shitting on our memories, Rick. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
And he basically went on his own and tried to create his own style and take away that image, and they try to box him in. And obviously you get,
and the thing is,
classic
Garden Party. The song the Garden Party coming from that whole thing about, getting booed off the stage by 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden at an oldies show. He played his new stuff. I think it was, I always say it was a great middle finger in a velvet glove. It needed to happen. He had class. Gunnar and I try to follow suit. We're falling short, but we're trying. And the reality of it is, at a certain point, you get to a place where you have to draw a line and say, this is what I stand for. This is who I am. And I'm proud of that. And if you can't dig it, fine, have a good life or whatever, but I'm going to do what I do. That's what that whole song was about.
I mean, if his whole philosophy was after his life and people wanting him to stay in that box you were talking about, the double-edged sword for our dad, not only was he on the most successful television show of its era for 14 and a half years, both a blessing and a curse, but the guy was freakishly good looking.
Yeah,
like not normal good looking, like
no,
really.
I can
painfully
agree with
good looking.
Painfully good looking.
As a straight man, I can say the same thing. He's got
what did Fogerty say when he inducted him into the Rock Hall? That was like Fogerty said, I guess, it was sometimes, for people to admit Ricky Nelson was the real deal and had it going on musically was like having to admit that the head cheerleader had a brain. It's like one of those things.
Yeah, right.
So, it was a blessing and a curse, or more of a blessing than anything, and the thing was true. He was the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. He was so down to earth. We never saw him have, an I'm better than you moment ever. He always took time for his fans. He always gave me credit.
I will tell you, as a fan, listening to you describing this is awesome. It's endearing to hear this stuff. I will say, Lonesome Town to me is as good as any Elvis ballad of the day. And no coincidence he has the Jordanaires backing him up. But that song is
here's a story for you.
One of the best songs of that era.
Agreed. Now dig this. Matthew and I got a chance to go through all of the archives. And back in that particular day, you actually had to have talent when you recorded. Okay.
Yes.
You didn't have multiple tracks. You basically stood around a microphone in the middle of the room. You had 2 tracks. So
you got to blend.
You got to blend. Everybody position themselves, and the engineer finally went, "Okay, this is great. No one move, no one breathe," and you did takes. Okay, so when you finally got to a take that had it, you go, "Okay, that's the one," and then you got to sing to that. Okay, that's the way they did it back in the day. So Matthew and I got a chance to, on Lonesome Town in particular, listen to all the different versions of Lonesome Town. When it started out, our dad was recording at Sunset Sound at the end of the night when he would film during the day, the TV series, Ozzie and Harriet, 14 and a half years, 435 episodes. They would film all day. They'd take a dinner break, and then he'd go down into the studio on Sunset Boulevard and do his recording. So take 1 started out probably like 8 o'clock at night. And it was just James Burton on acoustic guitar and our dad's vocal. Okay. Yep. And our dad's vocal. That's take 1.
The Eddie Van Halen of the 50s.
Okay. And then
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Tom wasn't really familiar with him. And because I'm the biggest Elvis fan, I would say, James Burton, when we did a guitar list kind of episode, and James Burton, I'm like, watch any of Elvis's stuff from the 70s and then go listen to his solo on Hello, Mary Lou.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like, that shit is fucking legendary. All great guitarists fucking.
But the Ricky Nelson stuff is more legendary, and I brought this up to James. We had a big interview once together in Louisiana for the press corps, and I just told James, I said, people laud you for the stuff you've done with Elvis, which is great. I mean, I love Suspicious Minds. It's awesome. The work you did was great. However, the work you did with our father 10 years earlier,
Traveling Man, Hello, Mary Lou.
Yeah.
No. The reason why those songs are so much better for you, James, is because by the time you started working with Elvis from 69 on, rock and roll was mapped out. Okay, you had a pretty good roadmap. Right. You knew the parameters. You know what to do. But when you were doing those Ricky Nelson songs, rock and roll was brand new. There was no roadmap. There were no rules. And you guys were coming up with that shit on the fly. And I told James I lost some money. Bobby V's kid, Tommy V. We record and we tour with those guys, and we were at a Waffle House one night after a gig, and we said, "Hey, dude, what I said was, there's no way in the world that James Burton could have done like the solo for Traveling Man on the fly." He'd have to do it like I do it. I have to do it. I have to map out all my solos and I compose everything and just get it right and do it. And Tommy's like, "Oh, no. That James went in and just did it on the fly." I said, "Bullshit, I'm calling you on it." We called James and told him, really? I said, "James, I got $20 riding on this. What's the real answer?" And he said, "No, to be honest with you, we just kind of shot from the hip, man. I played that solo maybe 20 times differently. I thought I had some better ones than the one they used." Wow. And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me."
Yep. I'll put it this way. They would record on a Friday night. It was on the radio Monday. That's how immediate it was. It wasn't all this crap,
Go back to Lonesome Town, and to your point is that we got to listen to these takes, right? And it started out, take 1, 8:00 at night, sunset sound, just our dad and James Burton, okay? Then as the takes started to go on, you could hear them adding things. Okay, well, let's try a piano. Let's try the Jordanaires. Let's try this. Okay, by take like 80 with 4:00 in the morning, there was everything but the kitchen sink on that song, right? Take 81 and the one they wound up using and the one you've heard on the radio that's created a legend was back to Rick Nelson's solo voice and James Burton on an acoustic guitar.
Awesome.
So you could tell that they went through the whole exercise.
Yeah.
And somebody said at the wee hours of the morning, "Hey man, I think we had it when we started." And I know that they did a single version that had the Jordanaires on it, but the initial release, I believe, was just James and our pop. They tended to do that because the Jordanaires, this very famous background vocal group you heard on all the Elvis stuff, they couldn't, by contract, say they were working with anybody else. So, of course, they worked around it a little bit because Elvis was like our dad's, big brother, pretty much. They competed with each other. They were frenemies, really. They loved each other, but who's got number one this week?
Right.
And so our dad used to go in and have the Jordanaires work on his stuff on the downtime when they weren't working with Elvis. And every once in a while, he would have to ship the master tapes, which are huge. They would actually pack them up and freight them out to where the Jordanaires lived. In Tennessee and Louisiana, I think, and then ship them all the way back to Hollywood. I mean, it was not easy. Wow. It's not nowadays. You can do it over a phone line, but back then,
right. Yeah, but we were really blessed, man, because we actually got to grow up with all of those stories. And like when we started doing, you mentioned that we're playing the Mohegan Sun this weekend with the Ricky Nelson Remembered show, but we have the blessing of being able to sit down with the man himself, with James, and learn all the solos from the guy.
Right.
That's insane.
Which is
unreal.
It's really great.
That's
really cool.
Insane. And what I just want to add this last part.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dad, it's like mind-boggling to think that, when rock and roll is coming out, your family is already a big TV hit show, that they allowed him, who's like, "You know what? I want to play rock and roll." And they put it in the show. And he's doing I'm Walking and all that other stuff.
Right.
They could have easily been like, we're America's family, America's show. We can't have this rock and roll.
Hey, but remember, you're talking about Ozzie and Harriet Nelson, okay?
True.
What you know is
you see my point, though? Like,
what you know is the straight-laced Ozzie and Harriet. But see, Harriet was singing at the Cotton Club by the time she was 16, okay? Yeah. Harriet, I hate to say this about my grandma, Harriet was a babe. And she was, she could hold it down. She looked great. She could host a show entirely by herself. Our grandfather, the first time he saw her, she was filling in on a New Year's Eve show. for an MC that didn't show up. And she brought the house down, hosted the entire night, sang 10 songs herself. And she was 17, I believe. I mean, he just thought, wow, who is this? And Grandpa Ozzie wrote, produced, edited, directed, and starred in all 435 episodes of the show. It was his show. He fought hard for creative control and kept the suits out. That's why, to this day, Ozzie and Harriet, 435 episodes, iconic show, not even one Emmy nomination, not one. Because he wouldn't play ball with Hollywood. It was his world. And to this day, we still meet people and still talk to them that worked on the show, and they loved it. It was like their own world, their own thing. And when our pop started to sing, it was semi-organic. You know, he was out on a date with a girl, the story was, and she was a little older than he was, and he went to go pick her up, and she was nonplussed. She turned on the radio, and Elvis was on, and she started losing it over Elvis. So to save the date, he said, well, I'm going to make a record. And she laughed in his face. And of course, he had no plans to make a record. He had to say something.
Right.
But that moment was the one that changed it all. He's like, I know that this date is not going to end well, but I'm going to go make a record, whatever it takes, and take it to her at school, which is Hollywood High, where they went to school, and hand it to her and say, now laugh. And it snowballed from there because he really wanted to rub it in. He knew his dad was in the den writing the show. And he went to a place called Wallach's Music City in Hollywood. At the time, if you had allowance money enough, you could sing a karaoke version of a tune that was a hit, and you could replace the vocal with yours. And it would cut it on a lathe. But this thing was only, last 10 spins, basically. So it was like a novelty thing. And he made sure that our grandfather was writing the episode and just slid his little record player out in the hallway and dropped the needle on it. And, of course, Ozzie was looking for material, came up and said, what's the noise? He said, well, Pop, it's me singing. I was like, oh, Rick, you got to sing on the show. This is great because, of course, nobody knows this, but Grandpa Ozzie thought that television was a fad, and it was just kind of last for a second. Then he could go back out on the road and sing with his wife, which is what he really loved to do. He loved music more than anything. And so he got to live vicariously through our pop. Our pop, of course, exploded, but there were really no visual artists like that until our dad. He kind of smuggled rock and roll into America, and it was legit rock and roll into American. It wasn't like, there's a saying that Elvis turned off a lot of parents, Ricky didn't. Pat Boone turned off a lot of kids. Ricky didn't. He was like the perfect dude for that. So it really worked.
And Grandma and Grandpa were the right people at the time because, believe it or not, back in that day, rock and roll was considered straight up race music. I mean, it was really salacious. You couldn't even call it rock and roll because it wouldn't get past the censors. You had to call it rhythm and blues. Now we've got the Kardashians, but back then it was really like that, like for real. And they got just bucketfuls of hate mail from people all over the country. How dare you let your son sing the devil's music? And they actually did an episode where they addressed it.
Which they never used to do, but that one they felt they had to.
And they put it all to bed permanently. But, our dad was our dad was responsible realistically for midwifing rock and roll into mainstream American living.
No, I agree with you. Historically, I think the impact of Ricky Nelson on TV on Ozzie and Harriet playing rock and roll changed the perception of rock and made it.
Man.
Oh, wait a minute. These people are nice people. We like them. And they're allowing their kid to do this.
Well, what was really interesting is getting a chance to talk to Gene years later at the Long Beach Arena. We were managed by the same management company and all that stuff. And getting to have some cool conversations with them and, hearing from those guys like Paul when we wrote with him that, they used to catch our dad on the Ozzie and Harriet show too. And they kind of connected the fact like, okay, he's singing and these girls are screaming.
That's what I want to do. It looks like,
but they don't look as good as your dad did.
Yeah, I don't know. They had their thing going on, man. I'm telling you, that was
which leads me to the next thing I have to talk about here.
I read Gene's book. Okay, we were
The segment in your book. Now, again, we want everybody to buy the book and read it, but we have to talk about a couple things here.
Oh, please.
One of the funniest. Now, Zeus and I have done over 350 episodes with our KISS podcast. We've been doing it for 8 years.
That's awesome.
We've talked about everything and your story is one I have never heard, which makes sense because in your book, you're backstage. It's Gene. It's the tour with Winger and all those guys.
That's Hot in the Shade.
It's and the Hot in the Shade tour and Slaughter. Yep, that was the very first time I saw KISS with Slaughter in KISS. And you tell a story about Gene kind of backstage feeling a little bit bummed out about the crowd size. And you have a very frank conversation with him about why you think that might be. And you gave him some advice.
Well,
Can you share what that advice
Gene
is?
Simmons advice. He's the man.
Yeah, well, honestly, I mean, I didn't think the turnout looked that grim at all. I mean, we were just starting out, and the place looked pretty darn full.
Right.
And I'm saying, Gene, there's got to be like 80% of the house. The place is a barn, man. It's giant. Right. Good for you. He's like, now you don't understand. I mean, there would be like lines around the block 10 years ago, and we're having some problems. And he said it in a different way, but he was always really cool to me and Matt, always, we would see him, we'd go, Dad, and he'd go, sons, it's like, kind of one of those things. But we were having a moment, and he was seeming a little bummed. They hadn't gone out on stage yet.
I think Gunnar, he liked Gunnar's jacket, and Gunnar took it off his back and gave it to him. He wound up actually cutting it up and wearing it on stage a lot, actually.
Wow, okay.
It looked like a fighter pilot jacket with patches all over it.
Okay, nice.
But that was Gunnar's jacket, yeah.
Before they got smart and put back the wardrobe, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But the conversation that we had was just a couple of contemporaries. He was, one of my mentors and idols. And I just said, well, here's my thing. The funny thing is I honestly believe if you gave the people what they want, you guys are a circus. Let's think, because the Nelson family, we come from circus folk. Okay. Sure. Our first Nelsons came from Europe as circus performers. So we get it. The whole thing is you give people what they want. And he said, yeah. So I said, well, dude, they want the blood. They want the lasers. They want the fire. They want the demon. They want the tongue. That's what they want, Gene.
Yep.
And frankly, I think you guys look a little better in the makeup.
I love that.
Yeah,
so
that part was great.
But all I said was, look, my whole thing is like, if you guys just put the makeup back on and you dated Cher, do what Cher did. She's been on her farewell tour forever. Call it the farewell tour. Yeah. And you guys could charge $1,000 a ticket. And by the way, back in that day, no, that was unheard of.
Right,
for anybody to charge. It was an outlandish thing that I just grabbed. And again,
sure. No offense. I think you said $100 a ticket.
No, I didn't. I said $1,000 a ticket. People would buy it.
No, because our tickets were $18.
No. I said $1,000 a ticket. His eyes got huge, and he was like, "You really think so?" He'd been thinking about it anyways.
Oh, everybody, I'm sure, by the droves were saying, "Come on, guys, let's do that." But, all I know is that night was pivotal for us, too. And we write about this in the book because we went to go see the show, and we were there with John Kolodner, our A&R guy from Geffen Records, at the soundboard. And Gunnar and I we'd hosted a week of MTV back then when people were watching it on something called Dial MTV. And our single had just debuted, honestly, 3 days earlier or something like that. And it was number one on the countdown from Jump, which was really cool. We had no idea. We thought it was going to take multiple albums in years. Okay. And it exploded, but we were there at the soundboard, and it was right after, I believe, Winger was off stage, because I think they played second, and everybody was setting up for Kiss, like the stage was changing. It's Long Beach Arena. And I thought it looked really full, to be honest with you. I don't know what they're talking about. It looked full to me. And we heard this weird sound, it was like, what's going on here? It was like, there's a machine that's broken or something. We're looking around, and we realized all at the same time with Kolodner, he said, "You guys, call security." He's like calling security. It's like, what's going on here? And he said, we're idiots. We're looking around going, what the hell's going on? And the whole crowd was coming down to the soundboard to see us, to meet us. And this is brand new to us. We had no idea what was going on. Wow. Kolodner shitting his pants. He's like, we're going to get torn to pieces. They called security, and we had to leave the soundboard. And it was a little scary, but it was fun scary.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's amazing how attractive to women you are when you're on television. I can't even stress it. But it was one of those really cool moments, and we had that happen at a Kiss show. And
you guys hijacked a Kiss show. Good for you.
We didn't mean to.
I wouldn't say we hijacked the Kiss show. No, we definitely hijacked the intermission.
Yeah,
there you go. Okay,
we hijacked the T-shirt moment. Okay, everybody was out.
That's okay.
The ugly lights were on.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You mentioned former Kiss guitarist Vinnie Vincent.
Oh God.
Yes.
That just attracts news. Do you want to tell us your Vinnie story?
Well, that's kind of like a conundrum wrapped in a riddle.
That's being nice. That's being kind.
Well, look, here's the thing. Vinnie has, twin daughters. So, and they were very, very young when we were there and stuff. And they've come to a couple shows later. Actually, at the Mohegan Sun. I think they live around there. And sometimes they show up at our shows, and we kind of talk about old times or whatever. But the reality of it was, say whatever you want to say about Vinnie Vincent, but he was, and even Paul and Gene, I saw an interview just last night. Not just ironically, it came through my feed. but he was a very talented songwriter.
Unbelievably talented.
He's a very talented songwriter. And I got to say that the way that he heard melody was unique. And Gunnar had written with a lot of people. He had something going on. Now, he was very excited about the two of us, making records and stuff. And I think Kolodner had called him and just put us together with him to write. We did that with a bunch of people, and like with Vinny, we never had something on the record that we actually put out that we wrote with him.
I'm actually kind of glad, in hindsight, that God protected us and we didn't actually have a co-write on any of our records, because we would never be able to sell that record because we'd be in lawsuits and all kinds of crazy stuff. So
that is so true, unfortunately.
But I cannot take away from his talent at the time. He was very nice to us at the time. But it was right around the time when they were doing VVI. And it was right before he was telling us that he was about to fly out to film a video for Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes,
and then he played us Love Kills for the first time.
What a great song.
Now, I got to tell you something, guys. To date, that is, and I tell this to Mark all the time, the best fucking rock vocal in the history of rock vocals. That vocal is insane.
It's
on
unreal.
That song.
It's unreal. Yeah.
I mean, Mark hits notes that are truly inhuman in that.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot of prog rock in it, the where it's going through the guitar solo and the 9 changes in the guitar solo and all that. Talking to, Mark is such a gentleman. He won't even talk to some of his best friends about some of those stories when he was in VVI.
Yeah.
But, as far as we were concerned, we had one day of writing with Vinny. He was a gentleman to us. He introduced us to his baby twin daughters and all that.
His wife cooked us, rest her soul. His wife cooked us dinner.
It was just a Wednesday for us, and all that stuff was really cool. But it kind of led into that next year. We got to sit behind Bobby Rock and Dana Strum and Mark Slaughter, because they just put Slaughter together.
Yep.
And that's how we met Bobby for the first time.
We were at an awards show. That's how we met those guys. We were, I think, at the American Music Awards when they had it in Universal City. And I remember it was Bobby Rock, Dana, and Mark were sitting right behind us. We hadn't released anything yet or anything like that. We were still a couple of years out from that. And it was I guess we've been friends ever since. And Bobby was the first person that we put on retainer. Of course, he was asked to join Slaughter. And decided on us after he heard our demos, after he heard our music, Amazing. So to his credit. And, Bloss did an amazing job.
Bloss is just a monster. Just what a great singer, what a great drummer. People don't understand, like Bloss and Mark basically sang all the backgrounds on that stuff. He's a great
singer. But, Bobby was great because, Bobby was very intense, very focused, still is. And he had just come out of all of that, everything that was Vinnie Vincent Invasion. I think he just wanted a little bit of a break from it because of what he went through with it. And we went through an awful lot with Bobby, beyond, going from the demo phase of things and having him on retainer while we got our shit together for a year and a half to, having the police come to shut down an in-store in 5 minutes. And then the tour that resulted with that. From that, and then after that all kind of went away, we had a lot of personal stuff with him too. He is a solid 100% brother forever guy, and I have to say that it's weird. For us, it should be 2 degrees of Kiss, because when I really think about it, it's like I'm one of those guys that showed up to write with Paul with a picture of me dressed as Paul Stanley for Halloween, saying, can you believe that I did this? And he's like, yeah, like you're the only person who's ever told me that, that kind of thing. And
Paul. Thank you. That was a really good Paul.
Typical Paul. Yeah.
Paul. It's funny though. I will tell you, because I'm a Kiss fan. When I watched Vinnie Vincent, your drummer Bobby is just, you can't miss him. So when he popped up on your video, I immediately I'm like, oh my God, that's Vinny's drummer.
Yo, homie.
No.
Because he doesn't look like he can't fight. He looks like he can whip some ass.
Get this straight. Vinny borrowed our drummer.
That's it.
Okay.
But he was immediately recognizable to me once I saw your video. Now, the other part I want to bring up, too, before I forget this. So we got to bring up another favorite thing of ours, which is Seinfeld.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, God.
I don't know if you know where I'm going with this.
I think so.
Okay. It's one of you knows. Yeah. So your sister...
It's a funny ass show. That episode is really funny.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I remembered your sister, and I didn't recognize like the whole familiar thing from Melrose Place because we were watching it in college.
In college, yes.
And she was on an episode there.
She was on that. Before that, it was Square Pegs. You guys were pretty young, but do you remember?
I remember that Square. That had a young Sarah Jessica Parker on it.
Yeah, right. That was her first thing.
Yep.
Oh, I don't know that.
I
remember
was written by
that. And then, like, she was a nun in some other, like,
Father Dowling Mysteries.
Yes, and then she ends up, I don't know why they said she looks like Jerry Seinfeld, because I think she's really pretty. And I don't think Jerry Seinfeld is very pretty as a guy. And that episode is fucking hilarious.
That last scene when she walks out.
Oh, God.
Haircut. Yeah, with her haircut and with a prosthetic nose and the whole thing. It's incredible. Hilarious.
It's incredible.
And she has gum in her hair, so she had to cut it to look like Jerry.
Oh, it's the whole latent "Are you gay for Jerry" thing.
Yeah, exactly.
With Costanza. So it's it's like
love it.
It's really funny. I got it. Well,
funny enough, there wouldn't be any Seinfeld without Ozzie and Harriet. Ozzie and Harriet was the first archetypical show about nothing. And Jerry will say that.
Yeah.
That was what he kind of took it from. Like Ozzie and Harriet could do a whole show about a bike. It had nothing to do with like the story.
It was the characters.
It was the characters.
Exactly.
And that's what made Seinfeld work too.
Yeah. Let's circle back to your book. Let's talk about the book. So
which book? You mean this one right here?
Yes. What happened to your hair?
So check this out.
Which is still one of the best titles.
It's a bestseller.
I know.
We're actually best-selling writers now, which is amazing. And I think it's because we chose to do things a little bit differently. Obviously, no ghostwriters. We wrote it ourselves. Private school came in handy.
But this will show you the tone, fellas, because like when you're going through the airport and you go to the newsstand and you're kind of looking at books to pass the time, you're thinking about maybe buying something to read on the flight. Usually you turn it over and it's like all these superlatives, like, oh my God, Matthew Nelson's the most amazing thing since Amazing People.
I am.
Right?
Yeah.
and so like when you pick up our book, the first quote that you read, the social proof quote.
We decided to do the opposite because that's what we do.
Okay,
here's the first quote.
The first quote. I was married to their father. I'm not impressed. Mom.
That's awesome.
Starts. Pretty good.
Give me another one.
Wow. Okay, let me see here. The Nelson twins are over and they're just costing me money. David Geffen.
These are my God, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
The whole back is
that's amazing.
How about this? Hey, those two chicks are hot. Those aren't chicks. That's Nelson. Nelson are chicks, dude. I get the one on the left. You get the ugly one. Beavis and
Butthead.
Yeah,
yep.
I remember.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So the whole book is done with a good sense of humor. We've always taken our art seriously. We've never taken ourselves seriously. Fellas, we've always aimed to be a cross between the Everly Brothers and the Smothers Brothers. That's just it. Perfect. Because honestly, with the two of us, you've got a lot of built-in material. I get it.
Yeah.
But we get it too. So, the whole way around that was growing up where the best song always won. When we started playing clubs, we were 12 years old. And what we noticed was all of those bands that we were competing against in that sphere, if you were lucky, they had the one song that the girls would always wait through the entire set to hear. And you could see the response from the audience.
Right.
And for the two of us, we thought, well, what if we actually spend some time writing songs that are strong enough to where every song in your set gets that response?
Yep.
And that's what we wrote the After the Rain record to be, was a collection of singles. You'd be hard pressed to find any album cuts because we realized with what we had going against us, which was the parentage, the privilege that was, thought of, assumed, all of that, we had to make the music strong enough that
it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter what the industry did or the record company or whatever, that ultimately they would fall in line if the kids actually loved it.
Kind of like looking at what we were talking about earlier, Gunnar and I were on a mission to learn how to be master songwriters because we had spent an entire lifetime in music before that with okay songs, but nothing that was like, wow, that's a hit record, and we realized the hard way that nobody was going to give us that. So the closest we could get to that was being mentored by master songwriters. Mm-hmm. So we brought up Vinny, who was a great songwriter. He just, and then Paul and Gene, great songwriters. Okay. Russ Ballard, we went to England and wrote with Russ. We learned from
we wrote with Robin Zander.
Yeah. I mean, we learned from a lot of people, just because even if we didn't get something that was a keeper, we learned how to do it. We learned that like what the secret sauce was. And being twin brothers, I think it really helped that we both had the same mission. Was we'd already done it. We already had the best equipment. We already, put the look together, whatever. But man, we really believe that. And still to this day, it's all about that song. You could hear, a Kiss hit and you're immediately at one of their shows or with your buddies or doing, it's this unbelievable magical thing that we don't get to have children ourselves. So songs are the closest thing that we're going to get, and we fight for them the same way and we love them that way. And I think there's nothing better for me besides playing music with my brother and not killing him after all these years. I think, I got to be honest with you, that whole thing about Gene and Paul, very close to what we've got.
I could see that for sure.
Very close to what we've got.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think Aerosmith was the same way,
Steve and Joe.
Cheap Trick, same thing. It's like we had each other to bounce that stuff off of, but we had the same mission. The same mission was we're always going to give people more than they ever expect, which in our case was frankly pretty easy, Yeah. We were guilty until proven innocent, but we've been playing a long time. We should be good by now, or we should be able to bring it, live. So that just comes with it. But I think, and we talk about this in the book and why we called it what we did. We have a certain degree of a sense of humor because our dad always told us you're going to need it in this business. It's hard to be decent people in a fucked up, horrible business. And that's what this is. Let's call it what it is. It's awful. But if you can get past the gatekeepers, or you can get past it. And if, you have to learn how if somebody shuts a door, you go through the window. You never quit.
Right.
Kiss is the same way. Never quit.
100%.
And by the way, I got to tell you, their kids are awesome.
I've been watching their videos.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. Yep.
Yeah, I think they're just undeniably talented, and that's the whole thing. It's one of our
Nick
rules.
and Evan. Yeah.
They do great, and they're doing their own thing, and it's it's maybe not what everybody. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that are going, all they have to do is put the makeup on, man. Just put the makeup on. And
thank God they're not doing that, though. As a lifelong Kiss fan, thank God they're not doing that.
I know, but they could. They don't.
They could. Exactly.
But they're just so good, man. They're just good. I don't care who they're related to. They're just good. If you like listening to it. And Gunnar and I wanted to make sure that if you heard 5 seconds of what we do, you knew it was us. And we've accomplished that. Kiss is the same way. 5 seconds, it's them.
But speaking of them, though, I was going to say, have you seen them? You saw them in 89, 90, which is Hot in the Shade, without the makeup. Did you ever get to see them wearing the makeup?
Oh, of course. Yeah. And I paid for a ticket like everybody else did.
Gene didn't comp you?
No, that fucker, I paid $1,000 for my ticket, just like I told him.
And then when you hung out with them, he charged you for a meet and greet?
Yeah, right.
So, I'm not surprised at that.
No, I'm telling you, I spent $1,000 on my ticket to see them play at Hollywood Park on Halloween one year.
Wow.
And it was a giant show, and it was worth every fucking penny.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah, you saw all the gimmicks, right? What do you think? What is your favorite one? What is your favorite Kiss thing? Paul flying through the air, Gene blood, Gene going up in the air, Tommy or Ace were really originated, shooting up stuff with his guitar.
Well,
what is your favorite thing?
I was always, I started out as a drummer, fellas.
Oh, okay.
You moved to guitar afterwards, right?
30% more chicks. Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe that.
Scientifically proven, yes.
I don't think you guys have a problem with the chicks, but that's okay. Go on.
Yeah. Well, hey, that was by design, my friend. By design.
Right.
So I always looked at Peter Criss when I was a kid and the giant drum set and all that stuff. For me, it was always about the gear.
Yep.
And Eric Carr was a great guy. Loved Eric. He was amazing. So for me, it was always about the drums.
The riser, the drums going up.
All of it. All of the pageantry and all of that. See, to me, it's all showmanship. When Nelson went out with the After the Rain tour, if you had ever gone to see a Nelson concert, first off, it was 20,000 people a night. 19,999 were women. And one really fucking smart guy. One guy who would have been that guy waiting out in the alley after Chippendales got out. That guy was smart. All the haters were there in their black T-shirts at home, listening to their Megadeth records and all that kind of stuff. And that one guy, but we were having a great time. But it was all about the show. What we wanted. We wanted people to come into our concert and lose themselves in this world that we created. That was the whole point. And it cost us more than our last dollar to do. I don't regret it.
Yep.
But when people walked in, funny enough, we were inspired equally by the Kiss concert as we were by Cirque du Soleil. And let me explain.
Oh, yeah, please.
We saw Cirque du Soleil the first year they came to America. Matt and I were in junior high or something at the time, and we were living on the west side of LA, and they set up a big top right next to the Santa Monica Pier. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was a very hot ticket. No one really knew what it was because it was brand new.
How do you describe it unless you've seen it?
We as kids, we went to this show and we walked into the big top, and the second you walked in, I mean, the first thing that hit you, believe it or not, was the smell of the place. They used to pump scents into the big top to get you in this whole theater of mind, like the cotton candy and the lavender and all of this stuff that they had. So, I mean, it assaulted all of your senses. The lighting was amazing. The music in the background, they had a great band doing their thing. And then you had the acrobats, but it was like this world that once it was over, like 2.5 hours later, you walked out of there not only feeling like you just seen a Rocky movie, but you were exhausted in a great way.
Right.
And to me, it was like this visceral experience. I thought, man, one day, Matt, I want to do that with you. That's what I want to do. I want to create that for people. And the only other show that I'd seen that one time with Kiss, right? And it was when they put their makeup back on at Hollywood Park. Mm-hmm. And then Matthew and I were blessed enough to see Bon Jovi and Cinderella in 1986 or 7, like right around there.
Slippery and
Wet night songs.
Okay,
night songs.
Okay, but we were at the Philadelphia Spectrum, which is basically both of their hometown.
Yeah.
And both of those bands, it was their dream come true. Both of them were on their biggest albums ever at prime time for that music in the world. And John was in Fringe flying over the audience and the whole thing. And that's it, man. That was so cool.
That immersive experience thing is what we really wanted to put together, and we got a chance to do it. It cost us our last penny, and it was worth it because we still had people saying, man, that was your guys' show was my first show. I had no idea what I was in for. I'll never forget it. The screaming was louder than I can ever imagine. It was like Backstreet Boys kind of screaming.
Right.
So target rich environment, but we had, honestly, our band, we had better musicians than we deserved. Bobby Rock on the drums. We had a guy named Brett Garsed who was from Australia. He was like a savant. He played with a guy named John Farnham, who probably had the best voice in rock and roll ever. He was like their Bruce Springsteen. We brought him over from Australia because we wanted something different. He played very like legato, Alan Holdsworth kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Paul Merkovich, our keyboard player, he's like everybody's music director now. So like Janet Jackson, Cher for years, Jeffrey Osborne. He does like all the music for The Voice. He's the guy. The guy, the commander in chief of all of that. These guys were unbelievable musicians playing our heavy pop music, letting Gunnar and I do our thing. And the show developed. And then I think, to be honest with you, we write about this in the book, it kind of devolved a little bit because I think even from the inside, the people that were controlling things, I think Gunnar and I could withstand the malice or the hate that came at us from certain sections that didn't understand what we were going for. So they were kind of chipping away at it. I think maybe Kiss went through that. I don't know when they actually took the makeup off. It was kind of a reverse thing of that.
I'm sure they had some well-meaning advisors around them going, gosh, you guys could save a fortune if you don't go out with all the blood and the fire and the makeup and all that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm sure, having to put on that makeup every damn day for your entire life could get tiring. So it's like, they wanted to, I get it. I really do.
Yeah.
But, we had the same thing happen. We had some well-meaning people around us at the time going, hey man, you guys really, you get a lot of shit for like your appearance and the way you've styled yourselves, and you need to dumb yourself down because people don't think you're rock. And hindsight's always 20/20, but if we had better people around us, they would have actually built on it, to be honest with you, and gone in the other direction. Because it was about being special. It was about being different. It was,
why take something and make it average? I don't know.
Well, I know it makes a lot of people more comfortable, but it's certainly not how you wind up in the history books, know? And on that note, Kiss will always be legendary because they were audacious and they were rebellious and, they did things that no one else could pull off. That's what we all want to see. Like the guys who are like, all us guys hanging drywall during the day, they want to go see the Kiss concert and they want to see the shit. They want to see it.
That's right.
You're absolutely right. So
now you guys are still touring. You're still touring as Nelson, and then you're still doing, like you said at Mohegan Sun, you're doing the Ricky Nelson show.
We have a very high pain threshold. Yes.
Now it's funny because you're actually coming near us. We're just outside of the Boston area. You're coming to Boston in April.
Yeah.
Now when when we go on your website and it's and we're looking at your tour dates, it says April 26th, Sunday in Boston. It says Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, and then in parentheses it says acoustic duo. So should we get that? That's going to be an MTV Unplugged with Nelson type show.
Yes and no. Now here's the thing. We also write about this in the book. The thing that also really set the two of us apart was the fact that when we got signed to Geffen, when we actually started writing our own tunes, we got some words of advice not only from our father, who said he would have given all of his hits that other people had written in his early days as a rockabilly pioneer for the experience of writing his own hit with Garden Party. So he always counseled us when we started out as kids, boys, if you're going to do this, write your own songs. Trust me, you're going to get a lot out of that. Yep. But we also had a meeting with Colonel Parker, which we also write about in the book. Elvis's manager.
Yep.
And this was the year after our father died. We refer to it as the lost year. Mm-hmm. And we sat down with them and he said, so what are you boys working on? We just said, well, we just got done playing Saturday Night Live. We were the only musical guests that were unsigned in its history. And so we're trying to put our band together. And he stopped us. Cole, he said, no, you guys don't need a band. Just the two of you, 2 acoustic guitars. That's it. That's all you need. Now, remember, this was when everyone was living on a prayer. Okay, we had just seen the Bon Jovi show.
Yeah, my guitar player can beat up your guitar player time.
it was all about, the bigger, badder show. And Matt and I left that meeting going, God, what does that old man know? He's only Elvis's manager. He's way out of touch.
Right.
But looking back, hindsight being 20/20, every single opportunity that we've ever had in our lives has been around the 2 guys with 2 acoustic guitars. Every one, from getting signed to John Kolodner to the biggest show we've ever played, just us. 66,000 people in Erie, Pennsylvania came out to see the 2 of us play.
To Prince walking up to us and saying, "Hey guys, I dig your sound. Keep doing it."
That
kind of stuff.
Having a record come out 6 months after the whole Milli Vanilli scandal had happened was putting us in a position where we had to go from radio station to radio station, starting out with the small ones, the small rural ones.
Yep.
With taking over the morning show with a couple of acoustics and our voices and just doing our thing, just to prove to people that we were real.
That you were real. Yeah, we were real. Exactly.
And I don't blame them. I mean, we were a lot. I get that. And, people saw us coming after that whole scandal. They thought we were Milli Vanilla, so we had to, we had to prove it differently.
But I got it.
That's awesome.
And to be honest with you, it's what we love doing more than anything. Like we still go out and we still do dates with a lot of our friends, with the Slaughter Boys, with Night Ranger, with Lita Ford, with, all our friends. And we do that. But we like going out. We don't get me wrong. We went out. We did the whole Nelson rock band thing with James Gunn, the finale of The Peacemaker. We had a song called "To Get Back to You," and we love playing those shows.
Live band. We really do.
We've got a great live band. However, when we actually go out and we go with just the 2 of us, and we do our thing. What's amazing is one, immediately it's real. I would go in front of any audience of any size, anywhere on planet Earth, with my twin and 2 guitars. Awesome. I feel that comfortable doing that. But it's weird when you see people doing that. 1, it's real. 2, your mind fills in all the music that you're used to hearing on the radio anyways.
Right.
But when you can hear those people who actually really can still sing and can really still play,
do you know any of them?
Well, in this world of AI, and we talk about this a lot, in this world of AI, to be honest with you, what's crazy is bringing things to people like that honest and stripped has become the novelty.
Human is the new vinyl.
Yep, human is vinyl.
Such a great point. Such a great point.
That's why I gravitate to the old country stars, the Johnny Cashes and Merle Haggards and things like that, and your father and Elvis and stuff. To me, that's about as real as it gets.
It is, man. It is, seriously. And, the 2 of us talk about it all the time. I mean, Matthew is fucking old by now, So we talk about this, but the fact that we actually came up in music during so many different chapters of our industry. Also on the technical side of things, I love being in the recording studio. I love recording sciences and all of that. But we started out, cutting with razor blades on 2-inch tape, I mean, that's so, when people are talking about cutting and pasting on a computer, we know what real cutting and pasting is because we started out that way.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that because back in that day, there was no such thing as auto-tune, fellas.
Right.
You couldn't phone it in.
Nope.
You know, I mean, if you didn't have it, you could hear it really quickly, even back then, let alone back in the day that you're talking about with Johnny Cash and our dad and all those guys where they're sitting around one microphone. We've got, I mean, of course, humans will use anything to give them an edge. And I get that, to make their process quicker and therefore more lucrative. I totally get that. But I think auto-tune was really when AI really started coming up and into the recording process. And there are artists that would seriously not have a career without auto-tune.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course.
You know, so, you know, honestly, I kind of miss the sour notes. I miss the you know, certain verses being just a little out of tune because the singer was excited. There's that human element I miss. So I really, especially nowadays, love going out and doing that. So the thing that we're playing in Boston, but you know what's really cool about it? For the first time, we can play Matthew and Gunnar Nelson hits. We can also play Ricky Nelson hits in the same set and have it sound cohesive and make sense.
That's awesome.
Because a great song's just a great song, man.
So true.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure which one I want to see more, though.
Well, I mean, you don't have to choose.
We're doing both.
Actually, choose Gunnar.
I know that.
Gunnar.
But I'm just saying, like, which one excites me more, just the straight up Ricky Nelson or your unplugged kind of acoustic set in Boston? You're both kind of around the same area. But, you know, to me, that's fascinating. And it shows you guys have the talent to be able to pull this off. And that's not easy. And look, Tom and I have been doing this for quite a bit. We've met a lot of people, and some more than others. When we hang up and when me and Tom talk, I will say the one thing, I'll say right to your faces. I can tell your entertainment background. You guys have
100%
character, and it's not fake. It's realistic. You've got charisma.
You come from an you're entertainers.
You could be doing this. You could be doing stand-up. You could have put your time into acting.
Thank you.
Into something else. You guys would have found a talent one way or the other. And I think it just transcends your whole family. And that's why you guys, you know, you got some lucky genes, but I'm sure there's a lot of good work ethic in there. And it's prevalent. I mean,
it's
been fascinating for us.
There are a couple of movies that are out there that I hope to never see the light of day that I only did because I really needed the money.
Well, so that we'll find that out.
I was working my way through college.
Yeah. So before we let you go, tell us where people can find all they need to know about you guys, your book.
Well, okay, first off, the book is called What Happened to Your Hair. It's up on Amazon. We make it really easy for you. So we've got the hardcovers available. Matthew and I just voiced the audiobook version.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
So they're editing that right now, but that should be out in a week.
1,000 minutes of recorded audio, which is
what's better than that than hearing you guys talk for 1,000 minutes?
Listen to your own voice. Yeah.
So
his voice.
And then of course, NelsonTwins.com is a one-stop shop, but we are always touring. We're playing somewhere in America on the weekends and just living a great life and loving it. And
God bless.
Honestly, Matthew and I, being the age that we're at, all we ever wanted to do was make music and entertain, and we're still getting to do it. And still, I think we got a new Nelson record coming out too. By the way, forgot to tell you.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, we just did it. We just did a deal with our friends at Frontiers.
Okay.
Frontier Records.
Nice.
But it's the same people that we did our record Lightning Strikes Twice. That James Gunn heard our single To Get Back to You on 15 years ago and just released. So we're right now doing the pre-production for it, and I got to tell you, it's going to be a great record. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, you have something that just popped up on a TV show, right? You have
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker.
That's what they. That's what.
Rolling Stone actually covered it too. Yeah,
West Newbury, Massachusetts.
That's right. Guy. John Cena, Massachusetts boy.
John Cena, what a great guy, man. He was great, but James Gunn, Matt and I have been fans of his forever. That guy's a musicologist. I mean,
that's awesome.
I mean, awesome mixtape 1, awesome mixtape 2 on the Guardian stuff.
Those soundtracks
loves music,
so good. Yeah.
I think that's what we all have in common. We're all just music fans. We love it. It's bigger than we are. It's like Gunnar and I have never forgotten. We get to do this.
Yeah, it's not something we have to do. We get to do this.
We love this, and it's like when we met Paul McCartney, and I've never had a chance to meet him, and I'm a singing bass player, so I'm a fan of Gene, who's a singing bass player, Sting, Paul McCartney, all those guys, Benjamin Orr from the Cars, my influences, and we got to meet Sir Paul, and we had heard a lot of things. He was really good friends with our dad. He was supposed to produce him when our dad died in his accident. So it never happened. And we never got a chance. Weird, because we know everybody. We never got a chance to see him, and wound up backstage at his show last minute. We got a phone call waiting for him to come out of his dressing room and meet a couple of people that they'd stacked up. Gunnar and myself were at the head of the line. It was Reba McEntire next to us, because we live in Nashville. So Reba McEntire, Brooks and Dunn, the Rascal Flatts guys, and Simon Kirk from Bad Company. That was the line backstage.
Nice. Excellent.
And Paul, he showed up, and he took a look at everybody, waved at everybody, then saw Gunnar and myself and walked straight up to me and grabbed my face and said, "Don't you look like your daddy?" And I said, "Well, I think I look more like my mom, sir, but thank you." And he couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been kinder. Yeah. And he said, I loved your father. And he had done Run Devil on his album Run Devil Run. He did Lonesome Town on that, his own version of it, as one of his influences. And so Gunnar had gone to the office down the hallway here and had taken the actual gold record that our dad got for Lonesome Town in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
And they only gave him back then, now they give them to everybody, but back then only the artist and that was head, two. And the head of the label.
Only two.
That was it. Wow. So I had a photograph of our dad getting his gold record at Imperial Records back in the day. And so we took it out and said, "We wanted to give you this." And he said, "Oh, that's wonderful. That's lovely." And he handed it over to us saying, "Thank you so much." And we thought, well, that was a waste of a gift.
We thought it was going to wind up like the crate at the end of Indiana Jones in some warehouse.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm sure he gets all kinds of shit like that. But I said, Paul, the one thing I don't know if you know this, but the last song our father ever recorded before his accident, 3 days before, never released, was One After 909. That was the first song that John Lennon and Paul McCartney ever wrote together, was that song. And he his eyes got huge. So I said, "Did you?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I did." And I took out a CD and handed it to him. And he grabbed it from my hands, clutched it to his chest, and started jumping up and down like a little kid.
Wow.
And it's proof that you can be a Beatle and you're still a 12-year-old music fan.
Still a music fan.
How endearing is that?
We're all the same. And he gave it to his assistant and said, "Please give that to me on the bus when done with this. I can't wait to hear this." And it's actually a kick-ass version. We're going to release it, I think, this year. Yeah. But he took a picture and we saw the show. I cried all the way through the show because it's freaking Beatles, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, on the way out, we run into Alice Cooper, Vince, and he's like, "Hey, what was that like, guys?" Like, we just met the Pope. I don't know what to say. It's
Right.
But here was the thing that really brought it around in full circle. Gunnar and I have a couple of friends, and they know Paul McCartney. And one of them said, "Hey, I was just in Paul's office in London, and I got to tell you something here, because I don't know if you know this, but he said his office is covered floor to ceiling in nothing but platinum and gold records and awards from all over the world."
You can imagine. You can only imagine, for real, what that office looks like.
And he said, but Paul has his desk right in the middle of there, and he's got a pony wall behind him. It's about 4 feet.
And there's nothing on that wall.
Nothing on the wall except your dad's gold record for Lonesome Town.
No way. Wow.
How is that? Right behind his head, man.
That's amazing.
How cool is that?
That's
and
pretty
you
wild.
thought he just said, "I throw that with the rest of the crap I get."
That's amazing.
That is such a cool story.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
We got all those things in the book. Read the book. It's a good book.
Can't wait.
Yeah, we already did. And we already started. So I can tell you, this has been such a thrill for us.
Oh, my God.
So now I'm going to put you on the spot. So we'd love to have you guys come back.
We'd love to. Yeah, do it.
Love to.
Let's come back on when we've got the audio version coming out. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Whatever you want. We would love it. We would love it.
When we're in your area, are you both outside of Boston? Because we have a very good friend there named Ernie Bach Jr.
Ernie and the Automatics.
That's it.
His band.
Oh, yeah. And we usually stay with Ernie when we're out there because he's a huge rock and roll fan.
I got a couch over here. Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah. So we'll hang. Well, maybe we do the show from Ernie's house. Who knows? It'd be fun.
Hey, we would the show. It's at the end of April. It's on a Sunday night, I believe. We'll do everything in our power to get there and try to meet you guys in person. Push the show. Give you guys all the publicity you deserve. You guys are amazing.
Well, thank you. And the reason why we're doing it a little bit more, we kind of put Ricky Nelson Remembered shows away last year and stuff, is because we got so caught up in writing the book, we forgot that the 40th anniversary of our dad's passing was on New Year's Eve, this last New Year's Eve. So we figured since we didn't get a chance to celebrate his life on New Year's Eve, we're going to do it a lot this year. So and it's a fun show. Great songs.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Absolutely.
Well, it's Gunnar and Matthew Nelson. This has been a thrill. You guys are amazing. Good luck with the book. Check them out. NelsonTwins.com is where you can get all the information and pick up that book on Amazon. You guys rock. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Billy, so much.
What a great time.
Tom, that was Matthew and Gunnar Nelson. Wow.
Incredible. Zeus, it keeps the streak alive of us having amazing experiences with first-time guests for interviews. Incredible stories.
Those guys, as I said it on the air, are just fucking entertainers.
Unreal. The stories that they tell from their grandparents, their dad, themselves, Kiss, Vinnie Vincent, friggin' you name it, just incredible stuff. So entertaining. Such cool guys.
Yeah, it was a personal fucking achievement for me to talk to the children of Ricky Nelson, a guy that I fucking idolize as one of the pioneers of rock and roll.
Yep.
And to hear them talk these great things about their dad and that he was a nice guy, which is endearing in and of itself. But, and they turned out to be nice kids too. So God bless them. It was a lot of fun, and we'll have them back. But till next time, peace out, Girl Scout. Oh, you over here? Yeah, I'm over here now.
Zeus, it's me. I want to end the show now.
Jesus Christ, Tom. Jesus Christ. Let's end the show now while we got the muscle.